Guys, welcome to, basically this conversation to the audience. My name is Johan van Amersfoort. I'm the Chief Evangelist at ITQ. And in this conversation, which I have with Aaron and Kenny, Aaron, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Aaron Black. I've been in the product team at VMware Broadcom Omnissa for a long time, maybe forever. And certainly excited to join this event with you, Johan. Thank you for the invitation, the chance to be here and chat about it.
Absolutely. Kenny, what about you?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kenny Takahashi. I'm on the product marketing team for Omnissa Workspace ONE. So I'm looking at everything that we do with our desktop management and happy to be here talking to you guys.
Awesome. So in today's conversation, we're going to talk about something that's that we've been, well, especially Aaron has been working, and Kenny, you too, but you guys have been working on this for a long time. We have been too, but from a customer perspective. So we are really excited to basically, announce it, or sort of, right? Yeah. So It's Omnissa Workspace ONE fully integrated with Intel chip to cloud. So Aaron, let's start like the basics. What is it?
Sure. So I think at a technical level, what it is some really excellent cloud to cloud integration. And the way I measure excellence in integration is like, how easy is it for the customer or the partner to enable it? And we've done a great job here. The customer or the partner literally does not even have to enter an API key, upload a cert, or do anything like that. So this is real good integration between our Workspace ONE Cloud and the Intel Endpoint Cloud Service, which has a number of different functionalities. Intel Chip to Cloud describes the first few features that we are enabling that are all operational in nature. And so functionally, what we're doing is power operations and remote KVM. So in a nutshell, that's what it is.
So Intel used to do that already, right? But in a different way through Intel EMA. What is the big difference between Intel's previous solution called EMA and the new solution?
Yeah, so I think the simplest way is, well, one is a server. EMA is a server someplace. It could be hosted on the cloud, but it's a server. And this is a service. So this is true cloud-to-cloud service integration. There's a couple other things that, typically there are FAQs that come up and customers go, that sounds like too good to be true. And that is because in some ways it is, in terms of the differences. The enablement of this and the activation of this has been streamlined. Workspace ONE has made it as simple as it gets in terms of configuring a profile, sending it out. And that's a big difference. From days past, there was a number of things to set up, configuration groups and things like that. And there's a range of functionality there. What we've tried to do is just narrow down the most valuable functions and make them as easy as possible for customers to enable and begin to use at scale in their fleets. So I'd say that's the big difference between server and service, and in terms of the enablement process and the implementation.
Right. And we'll definitely dive into the implementation a little bit later. But question to you, Kenny. So what problem are we solving here?
Yeah, so there's plenty to look at here. So from the Workspace ONE side, we're always looking at things above that operating system layer. So when there is an issue with the operating system or the IT team needs to get below that level, that's where the chip to cloud solution comes in. We can really use what Intel has put together with their vPro platform and tap into some of those hardware level management capabilities. So really expanding the story of device management beyond just what we do on a higher level, get down, be able to do more, especially for our hybrid workforce. So we have remote users that are needing support that can't necessarily get in and see the IT team in person. This makes everything cloud native and makes it a lot more clean for everyone.
So I think one thing you really touched upon is Intel's vPro kind of feature set, right? So Intel has a series of CPUs or multiple series of CPUs, of which the vPro capability is the essential kind of part of the CPU that enables this, right? So Kenny, what could you kind of explain about what the vPro does, and how it contributes to this?
Can I actually pass that one off to
Aaron? Question to you. Same question.
Yeah. And I would pass this off to Intel, but it's just us today. But no, there's a rich history here. And to your previous question, Johan, it's important to note that EMA leveraged the same chip, the same firmware, the same software on the endpoint. We're using the same ingredients, and those ingredients are very valuable. That's what makes vPro, this active management technology, the ability to come in and go underneath the operating system straight to the hardware. I mean, that's called out of band. Recent events have shown how that is significant. That is an edge that customers need to be able to hold the line against some of the events that happen at scale, and especially for the hybrid workforce. Because if you're hybrid, there's not going to be an IT tech showing up. And in the case where the device can't boot, or you're trying to do some update and not take up the end user's time, there's a big scale and efficiency and experience bump from having this vPro technology capability.
So what is kind of the ideal or sweet spot customer that would use it? Like, who is it for?
Yeah. So I thought about that question. It's hard to come up with customers that it's not good for. And normally I'd say like, hey, the healthcare vertical or financial services, typically functionality becomes critical to one vertical or another, or maybe the size of a business. But if you say, what's the biggest problem, then you can measure biggest in terms of criticality and urgency, which could be that, person that's in their home office and they have a presentation to get done and their machine didn't boot. That's the biggest problem right there. And then you have problems of scale where a whole bunch of people at a branch, a point of sale device is down, a machine that hooks up to an X-ray or a medical device of sorts. Like, those are critical and urgent as well. So in terms of, who it's best for, I struggle to find folks that it wouldn't be helpful for. I would say that because this is operational in nature, we're talking about power operations, we're talking about blue screen or no boot scenarios. It's not necessarily about, thousands or hundreds of thousands of devices. It's the fact that this fixes that scenario when it's already on fire. It's critical. Someone is having a very bad day. So from that perspective, I'm pretty sure every customer has a couple people that have a bad day frequently. And that's, across all hardware architectures. I've had all sorts of test devices in my years in my lab, and they all have bad days here and there. So it's just a fact in terms of hardware. That's just what it is.
And that's basically independent to the industry. Looking at healthcare, we have tons. And you mentioned the medical devices. We have tons of those examples, like kiosk PCs or billboard PCs, or all of those kind of devices that don't have an end user directly tied to them, or have shared. Like those devices are being shared by those end users. But yeah, we see it kind of in the financial industry as well. Especially like where if you have PCs that are used by stockbrokers or financial analysts, and those have like those endpoints with multiple screens to them, and you have a certain moment in 24 hours, like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, that you can run an update or a patch or whatsoever. So the update window or the maintenance window is really small, because what we see is some of those financials have 24-hour services. So it's just shifts of people depending on where the stock market is open. They trade, and having those small maintenance windows and being able, from a management perspective, to force updates even if a machine is turned off, I think is really powerful. So, like you mentioned, it's kind of independent to the industry, but I would argue specifically targeted at endpoints that are out of direct sight of an end user, or aren't necessarily brought home, or could be, or those typical use cases where you would need additional security features, if you will, as well. Yeah. Because you need to ensure that the machine is patched at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think you're right about the sweet spot for kiosks. And internally here at Omnissa, like, that was the first place that we rolled this out, was our Zoom rooms. The devices that manage the Zoom rooms are Windows PCs, and they're not necessarily easily accessible. And so we wanted to have the capability to keep them up to date and manage those things and do it efficiently. And this was the one technology that really did the trick for those devices. So you're right about the sweet spot.
So one of the misconceptions kind of is that, like, okay, so Intel vPro, that's automatically tied to a NUC. Well, Intel sold the whole NUC business to Asus, but many different OEMs sell NUCs, sell devices with Intel vPro CPUs, right?
I think you just look for the sticker. That's what I've been told.
Good. Okay, so let's, we already kind of covered use cases. So could you kind of explain, Aaron, how it works?
Sure. You got the usual requirements. You have a Workspace ONE console. You have a scope of management, basically. And then you've got the devices that are out there. The devices need to have the vPro. They need to have the sticker. So there's really just two steps. One, you go into our Workspace ONE console and you say, go click on integrations. And there's a card there that says Intel. And that's where you look at the T's and C's and the legal. And it is literally a next, finish. That's it. There's nothing to type in. There are just boxes to check, legalese to read. It is next, finish. And I kind of emphasize that because when we talked to the dev team early on requirements, I said 3 clicks. Next, finish. We did it. So I'm very grateful to the dev team for accommodating my compulsiveness there.
So again, deploying this is literally next, finish?
Next, finish allows Workspace ONE console to reach out to the Intel Endpoint Cloud Service and say, hey, spin up a tenant for us over there, do the necessary security and authentication. And at that point, it's capable. The services talk to each other. I can ask Intel Cloud, hey, does this device have this capability? Does it not? So that whole communication framework is in place. The second part is you simply go into what we call a profile, which is like a configuration thing in Workspace ONE, and you just say enable, and you send that profile out to the devices that have vPro. Now, if you send it to devices that don't have vPro, it's fine. Nothing bad happens, but nothing good will happen because it doesn't have vPro, but that's all it is. You deploy the profile. After that, you go to the console and you say, hey, for this device, I have an urgent scenario and I want to do a power on, or I want to do a power off, or I want to do any of these functions, and that's it. So it's literally one step to set up the tenant relationship. Second step to get the profile to the devices, and the user doesn't interact with that at all. That's the admin saying enable and send it. And then the third step is just use it. It's in the console and the actions are there.
And with using it, it means, for instance, that we are going to create a workflow that does something that powers on a device, for instance, if necessary, powers it off or does a reboot or, power cycles.
Yep.
But looking at the KVM side of things is like, how does that work? Is that just, a console option or?
Yeah, so it's straight in our Workspace ONE console. So you go to more actions and it says there's a header that says Intel vPro, and then there's power on, power off, power cycle, and then remote KVM. When you click any of the power operations, you just get a message that says send the command to the Intel cloud, off it goes, and it does it. And that communication goes directly from Workspace ONE cloud to the Intel ECS cloud to the device. And that's because the AMD chip is unique, right? It's underneath the operating system. So that communication is direct. That security framework is in place, and we don't want to be in the middle of that. Now, KVM is a little bit different because we need to show something to the admin afterwards. We need to show them the screen. So in that case, the communication flow is pretty much the same in terms of the Intel Cloud reaching out to the device, starting the KVM session, but then we have the display that is actually directed and ported into our Workspace ONE console. So yes, it just opens up another tab, and inside the Workspace ONE console it says here's the device name, and it literally just shows you the screen of the device, and you see the BIOS boot, you see everything. And we've set it to a 2-minute timeout. So it's pretty reasonable in terms of the admin using it, because there's sensitivity to this, right? This is a KVM session. It is something to be taken seriously. So we have a 2-minute timeout, and if the admin's not interacting with it, we're gonna close it off and keep that session closed. And we also protect that privilege with role-based access permissions that are already available in Workspace ONE.
I think you touched upon a really important feature there. I got a question the other day from a customer asking, I have Workspace ONE Assist, so why would I invest in Chip to Cloud and integrating that? And the one thing you just mentioned is really interesting, because Workspace ONE Assist obviously works based on a session. So you basically, remotely sign into an existing session and work with that end user and remote into their machine. But this is completely different because you're KVMing on basically on hardware level, right? So you just mentioned BIOS. This is a perfect example of how it stands out. Like if you need to do something on BIOS or you need to flash a device or whatsoever, now you can.
Yeah. And BIOS is, and the PC ecosystem is one of those, most admins are a little bit afraid of it, and they should be. Changing BIOS settings, depending on, what command utility you're running, what vendor, like you might have a mixed fleet. There's all sorts of different BIOS configuration utilities out there, but they're out there. And so the fact is, there are times when you need to get even underneath the BIOS. And this allows you to do that. But that was one of the primary use cases was, I want to see the machine boot. So I would actually go to the Workspace ONE console, launch a KVM session to the machine. Then I'll send it the power operation to power cycle. So that way, as it's coming up and I'm watching it, then I hit F10 or whatever it is to get into that device, go in and change the BIOS setting, then hit enter, save and exit, and off we go. So yeah, I mean, it's a critical functionality. And keep in mind that the experience is from a chip that is in there that is doing its thing at a BIOS level. So the good is that it's completely out of band. It doesn't matter if the OS won't boot. If you want to get into automatic recovery mode, like that's what this function was built for. It's not meant or intended to be, hours upon hours. I think Workspace ONE Assist targets more of an experience, a slightly different use case, but the capability to go out of band, to go underneath the operating system, that's just critical at this point.
Yes. And I think this is this also kind of contributes to the next question I have, which is revolving around security. So what or how does it improve security? And I think being able, first of all, to influence endpoints on hardware level while being fully remote is one thing. But I started to ask the question, but we're working with a customer right now on a security level, and to kind of improve their security framework, if you will. One of the challenges they're seeing is that, and you guys know this as well, you have an endpoint and a type of endpoint. It's it's installed with an operating system. In this case, Windows 11. The number of updates you get for that physical endpoint that are available. We know the update Tuesdays or patch Tuesdays, but there's a certain number of applications deployed on the machine as well, and that number of applications is continuously growing. The number of updates on a per application basis are continuously growing. So just looking at the number of updates that the customer has to run per endpoint and to validate if the update has certain impact is enormous. Yeah. So it's very time consuming. It's very error prone. It has, from an investment perspective, it costs a ton of money. And because of the administrative overhead they're experiencing right now, they're simply unable to apply CVE levels that are non-critical. So like everything that's below 8 is not being treated right now. They just simply don't have the time. And this is where this solution comes into play. So per type of endpoint, what we're now proposing is to have an endpoint in a factory. Let's call it a factory per type of use case. And what we'll do now is have those machines overnight all being powered on as soon as a patch is available. We apply the patch. Before we do that, we run a benchmark test using Login Enterprise from Login VSI. So we kind of know so look at the entire flow. We'll power it on using Workspace ONE and a chip to cloud. Then we start the benchmark test. That takes roughly 10 minutes, and we know everything from the endpoint. Then we patch the endpoint. We run the benchmark again and compare the first result with the second result to see what the impact is. 3 things could happen. It's negatively impacted, which means we need to do additional investigations. It is not impacted. So yeah, we can just continue, right? So performance is the same. There's no negative impact to like the file system or whatsoever. Or the third result could be that it's positively impacted. So for instance, if we have a performance issue, we want to patch something, we want to see if that has a positive impact after a patching. And depending on the state, we push the result. And if the result is positive, we can automatically start patching the entire production fleet of systems. And I think this is just is amazing, because now we are also seeing that the strategy of Omnissa of kind of opening up to, or being kind of the Switzerland of an EUC ecosystem and tying everything together now really shows the value of not being just tied to a single solution anymore. You're kind of the glue that puts everything together, and as a result, we can now really lower the time needed to patch systems, and not just one system, but like 30 types of endpoints, and automatically stage those updates to the entire fleet. And I think this is just it's just amazing. It's really, really cool.
It's appropriate timing too. I mean, consolidating tools and processes is always a good thing. But in the world, like that scenario you outlined about how many updates come down and what might happen, like it's always one of those three scenarios. Or it could be that the machine just doesn't even boot. You might not get to run the benchmark afterwards. Who knows? So given the workload that is on IT to, have even reasonable expectations, I think it's good timing for these things to come together.
So, Kenny, question to you. Looking at the competition, how does this solution compare to what the competition is doing?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it goes back to what Aaron was talking about, how simple it is to use this with Workspace ONE. I know, like you said, Intel has their EMMA product, and that's something that can be used by other UEM tools, but the integration that we have is unique to us, where we have the actual cloud native solution that's just cloud to cloud built right into the UEM, the console. So that really saves a lot of steps. So as the 1, 2, 3, next, complete or finish, whatever it was.
I like that.
That's something that's very unique compared to, setting up a full infrastructure and having to keep maintenance going and manage that whole side of things. That's not a requirement with Workspace ONE and our integration with vPro.
So, sorry.
I would add just real quick, like as well, in terms of simplicity, like this it folds right into our existing solution, like you said, Johan, for desktop management. Like this capability, you just turn it on. So from a positioning and productization standpoint, we didn't make this as a silo or something additional. If you're doing desktop management today, then you have this capability.
And I want to add something to it. Completely forgot it. Oh, yeah. And I think it also kind of really stands out what the platform approach is, right? So we have a platform approach where we can basically treat any type of use case or handle any type of use case and manage any type of device. Could be virtual, could be physical, doesn't really matter. And adding kind of those capabilities just enables for more use cases. And I think especially looking at the customer side of things, being able to move away from other point solutions and consolidate those point solutions into or use cases into the Workspace ONE platform, I think just makes the platform even more, the Swiss Army knife, if you will, for end user computing. So I think this is just, a really good example of how Workspace ONE is continuously evolving into that even bigger Swiss Army knife.
Platform is critical.
So we touched upon the easy deployment. It's just next finish, literally. So what kind of version of Workspace ONE does a customer need to enable this?
So the 2410 version is the version that we enable this. So that's the console side. And then in terms of the device, you've got the requirements of it. It needs to be vPro, it needs to have a sticker on it. And Hub 24.4.14 newer as we release this is the Hub version. So you can be one version behind on the Hub and it won't hurt you, but you need to stay somewhat current. And we are bringing the capabilities in the Intel DLL in Hub. So you don't have a separate install, but as we go forward and additional capabilities arrive. You'll want to keep your hub up to date because we'll keep using a newer and newer version of the Intel DLL to do that. But to answer your question, it's 2410 on the console and 24.4.14 or newer on the hub.
And which editions of Workspace ONE are required to use this?
Yeah. So like Aaron said, as long as you're doing desktop management, this is going to be included. So that's our Workspace ONE Desktop Essentials, Workspace ONE VM Essentials, Advanced, or Enterprise. So that's all included with any of those 4 options.
Wow.
I can't remember those, so I just say any of the desktop.
Yeah, what Kenny says. Awesome. So what's next for kind of Workspace ONE? Maybe chip to cloud? Any things you can already... could you give us some spoilers?
Sure. Yeah. Well, because it's a cloud service, the Intel service, they are continuing to invest and they have dev teams that are adding functionality. And as that functionality is exposed through the cloud service, then we can adopt it using that DLL as we rev. So as we move forward, there's a couple of things that are at the top. I'd say I'll give you 2 examples, one that is maybe a little more practical and one that is more security oriented. So the practical one is that use case you described of, at this time, at this night, we're going to run a benchmark, we're going to update, we're going to do all the housekeeping stuff. It's like the maid service coming, you get everything fixed up, and then in the morning, your PC is fantastic and everything's running well. And we actually know it's running well because you ran a benchmark afterward. So there is a capability, it's called alarm clock, that allows you at a hardware level to say, hey, this device powered on at 2 a.m. on Thursday morning and leave it on until 6. And I think, I've kind of been imagining this for like the hybrid workforce kind of thing, where it's like you send out an email and you kind of train the users like, hey, I won't nag you with a Microsoft update thing, and you won't have to click defer however many times I've graciously allowed you to going forward, if you'll just leave your laptop plugged in on Thursday night. And that's it. We can power it on, do all the busy stuff, and then the next day you come in. So I'm kind of weird. Like I actually like trash night at our house because I get rid of like all the boxes and recycling and trash. Like the kids know it. I love trash night. It feels good to take it all out. And our trash night is Monday. So I kind of feel like it's the same kind of thing, but it's your PC maintenance stuff. And it's one night a week. Just leave it plugged in. We'll take care of the rest. So that's alarm clock. Yeah, that's practical, isn't it? The other one is a little more security related. So the remote KVM piece, today it requires the user consent. So you need to have someone there that says, hey, here are the codes. And that's because, KVMing is pretty serious from a privacy perspective, a security perspective. However, there are use cases where you need to be able to do that capability and not expect to have a user there to interact and let you in the gate, so to speak. So that's called admin control mode. And that's one that we're working on as well. And I think that'll be important. So that one is practical in the aspect that there are a number of use cases that I think that'll be very relevant for. On the other hand, like we don't want to hurry on this. We want to do it right. Intel has done a great job with vPro and AMT and taking the right security things seriously. And we don't want to hurry this along. So when admin control mode is ready, then we plan to consume that capability. So I'd say those are 2 things that we're working on. And the nice thing is we've already built a framework. Like it's there. And as a new device capability shows up, there's a new flag that shows up on the device in the service. And we just simply consume that. So all the difficult work, the foundation and the framework is already done. It's fully part of our mod stack. So architecture wise, we're really starting with something new. And so incremental functionality will come along nice and smooth and with a pleasing cadence, I hope.
Awesome. So did we miss anything? Any final famous words to kind of share? And now it becomes silent.
I'm not coming up with anything. Yeah, you didn't give us that question ahead of time.
Well, I did. If you have any final notes or questions, let me know.
Okay, got it. I don't think there's anything that's, just the sentiment that of the customers that I've talked to about this, like they really kind of have this posture of this is too good to be true. And it has been a while coming, but it has everything set up right for a customer to easily consume this and use the functionality. And truthfully, like, I've been at BM for a long time. Not all features are like that. Sometimes it's difficult to turn something on and start getting, ROI and lower TCO. But this is not one of those things. I think this one is easy to consume. There's a very relevant use case out there. So I'm excited to see customers adopt it and begin to use it.
Right. Well, I have two additional things to share. First of all, this is available today, right? It's not like in alpha or beta. It's available today.
We are done with the beta. Yeah, we closed the beta because the next step is the release. So depending on when you publish this, it will likely be available. But it is actually available for all our customers in their UAT environments today. So the full prod rollout, typically the way we do things is we roll it out to a couple of customers and then we roll it out to everyone. That's just typical SaaS deployment methods. So we have begun that process.
Awesome. Second thing to share is that you will be in the Netherlands talking about this early May. Am I right? I am right.
Completely right.
Awesome. So
I'm looking forward to it.
If you are hearing this or watching this and you have questions about this, you would like to see what's the benefit for my organization, or you might have specific use cases that we haven't talked about yet, but you do feel that they might be suitable for chip to cloud in combination with Workspace ONE, that will be your chance to ask Aaron basically anything you want to know. So we'll bring Aaron as well in our studio to record some more content on this. So if you have any questions, obviously feel free to let us know.
And you should know that I bring questions too, because I love to poke and prod customers to find out why as well. So expect a few questions from me as well. But that's the customer interaction that we love, and that's what drives the product. So I'm happy to do it.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. So for now, thanks everyone. Well, thank you both for being part of this conversation. Thanks for sharing everything there is to know about chip to cloud, Intel chip to cloud, Workspace ONE, and how to tie everything together. For you, thanks so much for watching. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. You can reach us if you would like to start with Workspace ONE yourself or would like to integrate with chip to cloud. If you need any help setting stuff up or getting demo devices done, also feel free to reach out, because we have a bunch of demo devices available for you to test drive the whole solution for yourself, and be on the lookout for some more content around Workspace ONE and chip to cloud, which will drop anytime soon. So guys, I would like to wish you a great day. It's morning, I guess.
Afternoonish, but hey,
afternoonish.
Thank you for the invite,
Awesome.
The discussion, the great questions, and the role you play helping your customers be successful. So we're really excited to launch this with you. Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to a follow-up conversation about something new that you guys are working on. So let's make this a regular thing.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.